high school teachers of Reddit. What is the one thing that you want your students to know that you would never tell them in person? When you think you're being geniuses by getting me to talk about random things at the beginning of each class instead of teaching, I'm really allowing it to happen because I don't have enough plan to cover a full class. They knew all along? Oh, of course they did. Story 2. If you're gonna eat in class, stop staring at me while you're doing it. You're ratting yourself out. Story 3. That it's just as weird for me as it is for you when we bump into each other in public. Edit. Instead of responding to all, I'll tell my story here. I went on vacation with my then girlfriend and bumped into a student 3 states over. We both kind of shook our heads, nope, at each other and kept walking, silently agreeing to not address it. I saw this same student again 2 months later during the summer at a concert where they were underage drinking. We just shook our heads at one another again, keeping the same silent agreement. I saw the same student 4 more times during the summer entirely by accident. It was never discussed. OP, bro, I think they were following you. Like, that's a lot of times to bump into someone. Story 4. I actually teach middle school rather than high school, but I'll play. I love them a whole bunch. I do actually tell them this, but that's not the thing. But goddamn, every single middle schooler is a jerk. Like, even the best ones, they're all jerks. You can't help it at that age. Part of the process of being a good middle school teacher is accepting the jerkiness and figuring out ways to work with it. Don't worry guys, your peers and you will stop being jerks soon. Well, most of you anyway. Also, all the things you think your parents and teachers don't know about, oh, we do. We've done it all. We would just prefer not to think about you doing it because you're much too young. Story 5. A few off the top of my head. Just because I like you as a person doesn't mean I won't fail you. Being smart isn't a justification for being lazy, and I can't pass someone that never hands in work. I moved you away from your friends because they were taking you down with them. You have a real future in sports, but you need to pass my class to play them. Your friends were making you fail, and if you don't get to play volleyball, I don't know what kind of future you have in front of you. I wish that the positivity that you get in my class could follow you home. I've met your parents, and they are a nightmare. I do my best to encourage you here, but I know that some days that might just not be enough. I have never and will never find a student intimidating. That's why I laughed at you when you asked me if I knew who my father is. Yeah, he's the manager of a car dealership. That means nothing to anybody. I had a kid throw a desk at me, and while it scared me in the moment, it didn't make me fear him. One day, you will meet someone who has real power, and I just wish that I could be there to see it. Okay, being moved from friends, look, I got something real quick to say here. Getting moved away from your friends in high school, middle school, elementary school, pretty standard stuff, right? You cause a ruckus, they split you apart. I was moved away from a friend in a university course, which is every bit as embarrassing as it sounds, by the way. Being told in a first-year English class that I need to move away from my friend because we talk too loud about, I don't know, Hearthstone or whatever, that was probably one of the most humbling and embarrassing experiences of my college career. Just wanted to share that. Story 6. One of the most valuable lessons I can teach you is to fake looking busy. If we're supposed to be working on an assignment or reading or whatever and you see me coming your way, at least have a piece of paper on your desk and a pen in your hand or something on your paper. Then I won't bother you. If you have nothing going on and can't even be bothered to make it look like you're trying, yeah, I'm heading straight your way. This lesson will be invaluable with eventual bosses someday. Story 7. That I lied to you when I said I was 40. I was actually only 21 and I was only a couple years older than you. I've seen you at the club and I've seen you partying. Furthermore, I've run into you in public way more times than you realize. But half the time I run away. The other half of the time you catch me before I can. Also, when I was at the mall, the guy you pointed to and asked me if he was my boyfriend was just a random Tinder date I met. He was definitely not my boyfriend. Edit. Since I keep getting asked how I was able to pull off looking almost twice my age, here goes. First of all, I had older teachers and administration backing up my story because they were afraid if the students knew how young I was, they wouldn't respect me. Second of all, I had a very serious reserved attitude during the job. No smiling, very blunt, no nonsense. Only very rarely did I crack the occasional joke. Lastly, I did dress frumpier than I normally would in dark, formless colors, and sometimes I even gave myself a bit of dark circles under my eyes with eyeshadow. Of course, some students still questioned it, but when you have all your authority figures telling you one thing, it's rather difficult to not believe it. Edit 2. I taught in Thailand, meaning the students weren't in close proximity to foreigners all too frequently, so they didn't have much perception of what a 40-year-old foreigner should look like. I also look very racially ambiguous. My racial ambiguity helped me out here. White people age very differently than black people who age differently than Asians, etc. Story 8. To my freshmen, yes, I always know you didn't do my math homework because you stayed up late playing Fortnite. You added me as a friend on Epic, so I see that. Also, the amount of homework not done in lower grades when new battle passes come out, it's just so coincidental. To a specific freshman, I support your desire to become a streamer, but editing videos should not keep you away from your homework for a whole week. And your friends always rat you out when you stay home / skip to make / edit those videos. To all high schoolers I teach, you're dumb. But I do love you guys. I'm not stupid, and while I know you cheat on your homework, I don't care. It's only worth 10% of your grade, and you're forgoing the practice you can get before the test. To the 6th graders I teach math to, dear lord, you make me cringe so hard I have to take ibuprofen some days. I have so much more, but my lunch break is almost over. Reading these kinds of things as an adult makes so much sense. Like, looking back on my childhood, I'm kind of like, man, teachers have it rough. They must have, hated us. But then some people always be like, no, they're saints, they're wonderful. And then I read stuff like this, and it's like, no, we were annoying. They knew it. They did love us, but they knew it. Story 9. I don't know if there's an exact quote I would use, but I wish I could let my students know how dumb they look sometimes, and how they need to relax and stop taking themselves so seriously. I also frequently find myself wishing I could rag on kids' clothes / hairstyles that they've obviously put way too much time or money into. But these thoughts only cross my mind when they're being jerks already. That's the unprofessional / petty stuff I would say. I could think of something more wise, but it's my lunch break and Friday. So my brain is fried from trying to keep these jerks together a week before finals. Story 10. I taught after school care / summer school for a year, and I want so badly to tell them that 1. Now is a great time to figure out who they are, and to stop parroting what they hear other people say. 2. Stop trying so hard to make Jamie like you and be your friend, because even though you and Jamie have been friends since pre-K, people growing apart is normal, and Jamie is a manipulative minge muffin. 3. I kept Owen and other troublemakers close to me in class because giving them just a little positive attention was infinitely preferable to giving them all of my attention in a negative light. Plus, maybe they just needed someone to listen and give them one-on-one, which I'm happy to do. 4. It's useless saying it because it's not going to make a difference, but this week's crisis won't matter next year, or maybe even next week, and it certainly won't matter on your deathbed. OP, you tell that last one to my brain, because I swear to you, some of my embarrassing middle school and even high school memories are gonna haunt me until my deathbed for sure. It's been a while since I've been in school, and though, yeah, they're still there, they're still there, help. Oh, also, before moving on to the next one, calling a kid a manipulative minge muffin is absurd. I really liked that, OP. That was hilarious. Story 11. The odds of you using some piece of knowledge from high school is near absolute, and you have no idea what it's going to be or when it'll happen. So you may as well try all of it. The biggest thing you're going to learn is how to learn. Story 12. One of the most memorable things a teacher has said to me. I'm really glad she did say it to my face. I really like you as a person, but I hate you as a student. My French teacher told me this when I was in high school, during this period where I was really depressed and on the verge of flunking out. Having her be so honest with me and pointing out that I was wasting my potential made me want to do better. And hey, eventually I did. Story 13. Sort of late to this party, but I often want to tell my students to enjoy themselves more and worry less. And I guess I do tell them that pretty often, but what I really wish I could communicate is that it's perfectly natural to break the rules and be a little more reckless at their age. This would be pretty irresponsible of me to tell them, as kids need their teachers to be role models of good impulses, not bad ones, but sometimes I want to. Kids today seem very frightened of the future and don't want to take chances, especially when it comes to having fun. I don't blame them based on the environments they're raised in. Also, if they have an A+ in my class, they can make a low F on the final and still wind up with an A-. Story 14. I'd tell my kids that their stupid decision to stay out on the weekdays and not do any work will probably lead them to do the same thing their parents do and living the same life. All my kids are incredibly low income. Also, their forced helplessness is not their fault, but I wish I could tell them to recognize it and do something about it. Lastly, please, for the love of God, do the frickin' reading. It's not hard. I specifically edited it to not be hard. Oh, and no, you're not interesting enough to become a famous YouTube blogger? Go to college. Story 15. I teach middle school, not high school. But for me, it's that I know stuff sucks at home. I see it every day when you come into my class. I see the tears you're hiding, the pain behind that class clown smile, the emotional fragility behind your tough guy persona. I know exactly what it's like to come from a broken home. I wish I could do something, but until you come to me, all I can do is try and let you know with a look, a smile, a subtle turn of phrase, that I'm always there for you when you need an ear or a shoulder. Story 16. My middle school health teacher made everyone smile when they entered his class. Not in a comedic sense, but as a rule. He made it very clear to us that all of our problems, however big or small, do not need to follow us into our class. He promised that for 45 minutes we got his undivided attention and wanted the same. You need to smile to get into the door. Even if you were having the worst day of your life, you had to smile to get entry into his class. He was the health teacher and he was big on mental health. He said it was important to smile at least once a day and he wanted us to meet that quota before his class began. I was a happy kid with a good home life, so smiling was always easy for me. The next year, when my family life became a nightmare, I had to promise myself I would smile at least once a day. I broke that promise many times, but I did my best. And you know what? I got to a point where I could trick myself into being happy. It took me a while to finally become happy. I try to smile when I wake up in the morning. I smile when I make eye contact with a stranger. It didn't dawn on me that every time a student smiled as we entered his class, he would also smile back. Part of me wonders if that was the real trick to it all. Having someone smile at you can make you feel better. Smiling at someone can make their day better. Even if you don't mean it, try to smile. Eventually, it will become genuine. My brain is so torn here, because on one hand, the story is very sweet, and it's a really nice sentiment and everything, and I'm tearing up a little bit. On the other, I know that 12-year-old, 13-year-old me would have hated that rule. I would have tried so hard to not smile on purpose. Look, I was not the most obedient of children. I was rebellious, not in a cool way, just in a bit of a loser way. But I know I would have given this teacher grief for no reason. And even though I wasn't in that class, I feel like I need to apologize for that, because it is probably a good thing. But come on, you have to admit, having to smile every day, no matter what, going into the class would get kind of annoying, right? It can't just be me, or at least younger me. Story 17. I teach special needs 11 to 14-year-olds, and I would tell them that growing up is going to be hard for them. Not everyone is going to be as understanding or patient as the staff at our school, and they need to learn to reel it in sometimes. I would also tell them how precious and wonderful they are, even when they drive me mad asking the same question over and over. They might not have the same advantages as the other children, but their gifts are just as legitimate as any other child's. Some of them might not know how to flush a toilet, but they can sure draw a perfect replica of the Death Star. Some can't remember their own birthday, but they smile every morning and say how happy they are to see us. And it's just lovely. I love my job. I just want to say real quick, OP is just the best kind of teacher. Oh, it's so sweet. The kind of people who do stuff like this are just... I don't even know what to call them. They're just incredible, you know? Anyway, moving on. Story 18. I don't care if you get high. Either take some edibles so we don't smell it, and don't do it when you're in the actual building. And don't do too much so it's obvious due to how incompetent you're acting. I get it. You have anxiety. I wish you had a better coping mechanism instead of weed, but I'm glad you're doing something rather than avoiding school or whatever. Just please, please, please don't give me a reason to send you to the nurse and or dean. Learn some practical skills. We all have to at some point. Story 19. That as a male teacher, I can't be the best teacher I want to be. I want to be able to have a private conversation with my students, but I'll always ask to keep the door open or have another student in hearing distance. I want to give you a hug and say I'm sorry after you've told me something terrible that has happened with your home life, but you'll have to settle for me just talking to you. I feel terrible having to ignore your PMs or texts when you ask me important questions. Or, let's be honest, send me really funny memes. Because I'm a man, I'm terrified of something getting misunderstood and getting fired from my job. And on top of that, being branded as something horrible for the rest of my life as a result. And so I will always be closed off from my students. Yeah, there are a few unfortunate misconceptions that are prevalent throughout the, minds of people that really make this tough. On one hand, I get it. I think it's healthy to have a certain level of separation between an authority figure and students. I think there is genuine value in not getting too close. That being said, it is unfortunate how a man would be perceived in these situations. The I'm sorry and a hug one is probably the toughest for me to hear because, yeah, some teachers, a lot of teachers I would think actually want to give that to their students when they need it. But a man kind of can't. It could be perceived weirdly. And I'm sure there are lots of cases where male teachers do this and face no repercussions. But I also understand having a normal level of anxiety about it. So basically, OP, I'm sorry you can't be the teacher you want to be. I do hope that at some point this kind of public perception changes, but as long as garbage people are in the world and the majority of people doing this kind of garbage are male, then it's gonna be harder. Story 20. Not a teacher, but an evening janitor. Part of my area is where the robotics club gathers and works. You guys are so amazing. I wish you could see what I see. A group of kids who are well mixed in ethnicity and gender working hard together. I never see any signs of drama when I walk by. When I look through the windows, I can see that you guys are listening to each other and treating each other seriously while also having fun. When you guys leave at night, your room is my favorite to clean. It's always so clean already. And I get to look at your projects and see what all the elbow grease is doing. It's so encouraging to know that these kids are part of our future. They stay an average of 2 hours after school every day, and you can tell it's not forced. They are so enthusiastic that their energy practically shines into the hallway. I celebrate every time a new award is added to the trophy cabinet in the hall. I never had a robotics club in any of my schools. That's kind of surprising now that I think about it because my school was very STEM focused. It would have been really cool to see the kind of stuff they would get up to. I don't even know what a robotics club does. I can imagine it would be really cool to get to see all the projects they're working on. And the kind of people in a club like that would probably be pretty respectful of each other and pretty great, yeah. That would be really inspiring. Thanks, OP. Story 21. Trying hard is necessary but not sufficient for most accomplishments. Intelligence is necessary but not sufficient for most accomplishments. I can't tell the sweet, hardworking but unintelligent kid he won't be a doctor. I can't tell the smart but lazy jerk he won't be a doctor. Both end up being in my remedial class, and blame being in remedial classes on mean teachers labeling them. I appreciate childhood as the time for dreams, but it means people make terrible decisions when they don't understand that we just put them at the highest level we think they can pass. We don't know why they're years behind their peers, just that they are. I try to see potential and inspire kids to do their best, I really do. But there's not a lot I can do if someone is dedicated to hiding their low intelligence by trying to appear as a lazy jerk instead, or trying to hide their higher intelligence by pretending to be unintelligent to get easier work. Story 22. You can be unsuccessful at school but successful in life. I pretend that it is important for you to do well in my subject, but in reality, you'll most probably find your niche in life and be reasonably content, or hopefully extremely happy. You might hate maths, English, science, but turn out to be the most amazing parent, artist, or carpenter, or even mathematician, playwright, or researcher. You might get the lowest scores in class and end up being the most successful of your peers. I feign annoyance, anger, disappointment. I reluctantly phone your parents, give you detentions, or write up critical reports. I have to, it's my job. If you do well in my subject, that's great. But if you don't, just relax. We can't all be good at everything. Oh, and do you think you hate exams, tests, and homework? Your mild dislike of the work is a mere candle flame compared to the hatred that burns like a million suns that I feel when I have to frickin' mark it. Story 23. High school band director here. I know you didn't touch your horn over the weekend. If you did, you wouldn't sound like rotten cat butthole. The reason you ride on boy buses and girl buses is because I don't want band parents in my band. I was in high school before you and I know exactly what happens on bus rides. In my 11-year career, the only names that I truly remember are the insanely talented kids and the students who were completely inept. Lastly, this job is so intensely stressful that I think I might be taking years off my life. But if I loosen up my standards, your band experience will be unmemorable. Do people really be banging on bus rides? That is not something I've heard of, or at least in real life. Sure, I've seen it on movies or whatever, but like in real life, people banging on bus rides never even crossed my mind. The first one about not practicing though, absolutely true. It's pretty easy to tell when someone didn't practice. Anyway, there was a good mix of stories in here, I think. A lot of uplifting ones, a lot of kind of sad ones, a lot of funny ones. I hope you enjoyed listening and watching as much as I enjoyed reading them. I also hope you have a wonderful day or night wherever you are, and I'll see you in the next one.